So welcome to this week's video. I'm at a farm near Woking in Surrey. Come here because it's been planted, the farmers planted several fields full of sunflowers, and it seems to be a real magnet for flocks of finches and buntings. When I first got here, it was a real cacophony of sound. They seem to be moving from the tops of the trees where they're currently at the moment off to the sunflowers. So I'm going to probably spend a couple of hours here, and then maybe, depending on how I get on, maybe for the afternoon, go back to maybe probably Thursley, something like that, for the dark-billed warblers and the woodlarks. Well, let's see what comes. The public footpath that passes around the farm certainly gives a good view of the birds as they sort of swoop across the fields before landing to feed. These sunflowers seem to be turning these fields into supersized bird feeders. And it's only when you sort of zoom in, you get a really good idea of how many birds are actually taking advantage of this banquet. There are 4 fields in total with this crop, and I've noticed that in between the flowers there seems to be like a kale that's growing as well, which the pigeons seem to be tucking into also. I'm uncertain if the farmer intends to harvest the crop. It's normal to allow the flowers to sort of naturally die off and turn brown, as we see here, but that would normally taken place by about September, October. Perhaps his intention is to provide a sort of wildlife habitat, or maybe to improve the soil quality. Sunflowers are renowned to be sort of deep rooters, and therefore they can break up compacted soil. Whatever the goal, one thing is for sure, the birds are loving it, and in turn, so are the bird watchers. By far the noisiest of the birds were these linnets. And speaking to another bird watcher, there's other birds that's been spotted. There's been some yellow hammers and one keen-eyed bird who has spotted a little bunting, which is a bit of a rarity. By far the most numerous was the chaffinch. Just noticed there's some chaffinches coming down to a puddle on the path here, so I'm just filming those a little bit. You can just get their reflection in the water. Pleasant change to the constant chaffinch calls was this lovely song thrush singing in the hedgerow. by walking up and down. It's I find quite difficult anyway to spot any subtle differences amongst the flock. They're such a large flock. I just had a group of chaffinches land, and I noticed there was a subtle difference, and I think there's some brambling amongst them. Typically it was just a little bit overcast at that point. I just had a bit of cloud cover. The brambling is a winter visitor and are sort of close relatives to the chaffinch, and often found, as we see here, in the same flock. And despite the sudden dull light, you can certainly see their bright markings with that beautiful orange tint on the breast and shoulder, giving them a sort of a more colourful look than the browner hued female chaffinch. Spending the summer nesting in the forests of northern Europe and Asia, at the end of the breeding season they sort of move south looking for seeds, particularly beech mast, to feed on. If there's a particularly hard winter with heavy snowfall, and this in turn coincides with the abundance of beech mast, the bramblings can gather in massive numbers. A mega flock of around 5 million was recorded in Slovenia in January 2019, which must have been an amazing sight. Well, that's it for today. Looks as if we've lost the light again. So I think the trip to Thursley, well, if I do go, it'll just a bit of a reconnoitre, just to see what possibly will be about for a later video, later in the month. But overall, I think this morning was brilliant with that sunrise over the sunflowers and watching the linnets, or hearing the linnets swooping over them and up into the trees. The number of chaffinches was just amazing. But to catch those brambling in amongst them, well, that was definitely a second highlight. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a big thumbs up, like and subscribe. And as always, you can feel free to join me in the next one.